What is up, guys? Sente here, and this is a video topic that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I finally got 3 perfect games to show you how this whole business of Aji and probes and leaving Aji and when you're not supposed to leave Aji, how that works. What I hope to do with this video is to give people who don't understand it when people say, you should leave the Aji for later, or they tell you you settled the situation here too quickly, you should Tanuki from this. There's a lot of questions like, when should I Tanuki from something? When should I not? We're all told that we should not Tanuki if we have a weak group, but oftentimes we don't know when to Tanuki if our opponent is the one that has the weak group. Let's say we're attacking something. When do we stop the attack? How do we know when we're going to profit? Should we attack if we don't see immediate profit? All these questions are very closely related with Aji in a position. And it's related to attacking, it's related to Tanukis, it's related to probes. And so this video aims to give you a comprehensive breakdown as to what Aji is and 3 different ways you can apply it in your games to get an advantage. Without further ado, let's get started. So first things first, what is Aji, right? What is it? I'm going to just set up a very simple situation. I tried for a while to think about what's the simplest way that I can explain Aji. Aji is potential. It's potential for something to happen. Generally, Aji in a position means there is potential in that position for either someone to have a really bad day or someone to have a really good day, or both, depending on who gets there first. And when you're a beginner, you think that you shouldn't leave any Aji in your position because you are not confident in your ability to work with your stones well enough. As you get into an advanced player, you are more comfortable leaving Aji in a position because your reading is stronger and you've read out the variations and you know when you're safe and you know when you're not. So the simplest demonstration of Aji, we can talk about it as this Joseki. Now, right now, as it stands, there's really no Aji in the position, right? Both sides can Tanuki from this, and it is not a problem. This push here is really just small endgame points, right? Because it doesn't really threaten the safety of a group. And some people, I know a lot of players that play endgame very early, and they might do something like this. But one reason you should leave, one reason people have decided in this Joseki, right, this is good enough. Play should not continue after the sequence is played out in the opening, is because both of these groups, are safe. But that can change. Let's say that white has a stone here. And furthermore, let's say white stone is safe and has an extension. Now, this position has what's called Aji. There is potential for white to do something that will make black's group unsafe. It starts with this push. If black decides to block, white has this very, very sharp move here. And if black defends the stone from being captured, white threatens to split black's entire position apart. And then white goes here. Notice black can't do this because this is an Atari. And white has effectively reduced black to one eye, and now black's group has to run. And we can imagine if there were even more white stones in this area, if white was even stronger here, this is essentially like a dead corner. So we can see that as the position changes, Aji is created, Aji is taken away. The potential for groups to become unsafe is always changing, which is why Go is so interesting. If white had played this push in this situation, in the opening from the very beginning, and did this sequence that everyone loves, right? And this, Aji's gone. That means white can be as strong in this area as white wants to be. you're not you're not killing this. It's alive. And that's one of the reasons, the most fundamental reason, why you sort of want to leave Aji in a position in the most fundamental way. This situation is safe for now. If you try to grab an extra 4 points in the early game, you miss out on opportunity to make it unsafe later because the position can change, exactly like I said here. So that's the simplest way I can explain Aji. Now I'm going to give you 3 examples in the game, games that I've played, where I've used this principle of Aji and I've left things where they were to find that it was more advantageous to come back later to attack it. So let's go with this game. It's a teaching game. I played against a double-digit Q. Let's get to the right situation. Here we go. Black played this move. I took my corner. He went here. I decided to go for a split. And we won't worry about the exact moves being played right now. That's not the focus of the lesson. Needless to say, I was pressuring the group, threatening to split the group, and making my group safe, and black to nuke it away. Right? So right now, this group effectively has one eye. Right? Its one eye is right here. Black can't make 2 in this area, and its second eye is not very clearly defined yet. Now, if I were to, at the next chance I got, let's just skip ahead to when I have another chance. Okay, let's say here. Now, if I were to try to attack this group right now, starting with something like this, and I just kept going and trying to attack this thing, odds are it's not going to die. It's going to make its eyes. Something like this. I might get some bottom points out of it. That's a great way I could attack and profit, right? So that's something to consider, but it wouldn't kill the thing. So if I just tried to attack that right now, there are definitely ways for this group to live. So I didn't play it right now. I could have probably made bottom points from that, but this was a teaching game. I didn't want to attack anything too severely, and I wanted to see what ended up happening here. I was leaving and preserving the Aji for a time when it might be more useful for me to attack. So let's flash forward. And he's attacking my group, and I am bringing my group to safety while trying to make some bottom points. Here. I have much more stones around the area now. My position is absolutely like 100 times stronger. So I'm wondering to myself, how about what if I attack this? It would be a great demonstration, right? So I decided to now attack the group. And if you'll notice what happens is if he tries to cut, the cut doesn't work. I threaten to cut again, and then I come out here. Black's one eye is still there, but there is no way he can make another one in this area. Because of that, he had to resign. This entire group died. If I had not left that Aji, right? If I had attacked that group and forced it to live right away, I would never have been able to pull this kill off. And so this is one great way you can preserve the Aji and take advantage of it. Because if you're trying to run your group out, you can make something stronger in one area, and then that will activate your attack in another area. That's what makes Go so exciting, like I said before. This attack would not have been possible had I done it right when it happened. I waited to see what the situation would turn into. Now, that's not to say it was incorrect if you wanted to attack this group, because in this particular situation, like I showed you in the previous variation, I could have made a lot of points on the bottom. Not this variation. As shown in this variation, I could have made a good amount of points on the bottom. But, you know, not from a positional perspective, from a flat-out Aji perspective. Leaving it for later allowed me the opportunity to kill it. And so that's sort of the first thing I wanted to show you about why it's important to leave Aji. Because you never know what the situation is going to evolve into. And if you take away those options right away, it can make you miss opportunities. This is not to mean that if you have a weak group and your opponent has good Aji against you, you should Tanuki. No, you should take care of your weak group. But if you're on the other side of the deal and you're the one that is creating bad Aji for your opponent, might be worth considering, when should I attack this? All right, here's the next game I want to show you about Aji. Now, this part of Aji is dealing with probes and what a probe is and why you even need to play them and why pros play them. A probe is sort of people have heard it and described it as being an asking move, a move that says, there's multiple ways for me to invade this. Which one would you rather I do? And a lot of times people play a probe, their opponent responds, and they don't respond back in the area of the probe. They play somewhere else. And it could confuse beginners for a good amount of time. But in Go, there's a very simple reason, really, is that it is much easier to destroy than to build. To create something that's impenetrable takes a lot of stones, but to destroy something, invade, and run out is not that hard. As a result, probes can be useful even if your opponent has responded more than once. It takes them multiple moves to remove all of the Aji created from that probe. And so if they were to spend all those multiple moves in that area, the other person would get a huge advantage elsewhere on the board. But if they go elsewhere on the board, then that probe has life and you can use it. I want to show you guys how I used a probe and how I used the principles of Aji to invade an area. So I was Wait in this game and I played here. This is sort of what I could call a probe. Seeing what he wants to do. Is he going to cross-cut me? Is he going to defend this area with a move like this? Will he go on the outside? What's he going to do? He decided to cross-cut me. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to play somewhere else. I felt like whether this was the correct order or not, or maybe I could have flat out done an invasion here, I wanted to leave that because my logic was if he spent a bunch of moves to kill that Aji, right? Probably not there. Maybe just take another enclosure. I would get such strength elsewhere on the board that I would more than make up for those points. Not to mention there's still Aji, or rather potential for me to invade in that position as it stands right now. And if you were to remove all of it, let's say he goes here or something, then I get even more power elsewhere on the board. So that's sort of the idea of a probe, is it's not worth it for your opponent to take care of it now, but it's just something he needs to worry about and something I can use later. So the game progressed. I was attacking groups, yada, yada, yada. Fairly normally. And now I didn't really see anything else on the board that was of huge concern. So I decided to activate the probe now. I cross-cut, Atari'd, and now I'm starting to make life here. And there's this weakness. And when you get better at shape and read, you'll see there's a weakness here, and there's some forcing moves I can get in this area as well. So my goal is to sort of make my way over to that point. When invading a large territory, if you get 50% of your stones out, that's a good deal. You should be happy with that. So he took away my eye there, so I scooted over. He removed the eye there. I'm like, no problem. I'm just going to leave. Notice if he goes like this, right? I am basically alive here. So he decided to take that. I'm like, fine deal with me, man. That's fine. I'm just going to leave now. And so I got an entire split on this group. And we think about the stones that I lost. I lost 3 stones. 1, 2, and this is going to get captured. But look how many stones he threw in an exchange. I think he took in this one, he threw in this one, he threw in this one, he threw in this one, and he played this one in an attempt to make it more solid. And I still split his entire thing. So these probes are very useful because your opponent needed 5 stones to try to remove the Aji, and I still split it, right? And that is really the essence of a probe and sort of how using Aji at the right time can be very good. Now I want to talk about Aji, my last game to show you. Aji in the context of choosing when to invade or when not to invade. That is the question. So as you know, as you get better at Go, you realize that a lot of the frameworks that people develop are very invadable. And whether or not you want to invade them at that moment is a very crucial judgment the Go player needs to make. I played black in this game, and I want to show you guys how leaving the invasion for later helped me secure a completely winning position somewhere else on the board. So white decided to kick me, let me make a framework on the bottom, and then played here. Now a lot of players would be tempted, because if they start to learn how to invade, to play here right away, play here right away, play here right away, or here right away. They see something semi-defined being developed by their opponent. Every other part of the board disappears in their brain, and there's like, I need to take those points away right now. But when you learn more about the game, you realize how valuable getting a framework and getting positions on the other parts of the board are, and how many points those can net. So I decided to leave that Aji for later and develop a beautiful, almost optimal framework on the bottom and the right-hand side. When my opponent tried to invade, I simply, very textbook style, attacked his groups, stayed solid, made definite points, made him live small, etc., etc., and we're almost approaching that point. I was attacking his stones, attacking his stones, attacking his stones, and here we go. So now that I had thickness, and I attacked something, and I had thickness that I could use to take advantage of this invasion, I decided to activate the invasion right now. Because of this, the simple Joseki everybody knows, that's Sente, and I'm able to connect up all my groups. I was able to split his position down the middle. I ended in Sente because he still needed to do this, so I didn't ravage this territory. I have great endgame on both sides that I managed to take advantage of later, and this invasion went off beautifully. And unlike what could have happened if I did it right away, he could not get thickness that he could use to attack me somewhere else, because I waited until the situation was such that collateral damage would be minimized. Now I can simply press down. He's making 8 points from this extension, right? It's a very small amount. I could even make that much if I decided to just draw a line out here, and these center points would be worth that much. So I left the invasion Aji for a time when I would have the least negative consequences from invading. And obviously every position is different, every situation is different, and you always have to use your reading and your judgment to determine, which is the best decision to make. There's no 100% axioms in Go. But I hope these 3 games kind of gave you a little bit of a flavor of the different ways you can use Aji, why we leave Aji, and why it's not good to leave Aji against yourself. There are 3 different ways you can use it, and I hope this helps and maybe clarifies some issues beginner and intermediate players were having with leaving Aji. So, try to figure out what you can Tanuki from in your games. Just because a group is weak doesn't mean you have to attack it to the ends of the earth. Sometimes a part on the board is bigger. Likewise, if you have bad Aji against you, be really careful about how your opponent can use that later. As the game develops, things can happen that weren't a threat before, but now they are. Just like in that Joseki example I showed in the beginning of the episode. So I hope that helps. Check out all my other stuff. Thanks to all my supporters, and I hope you learned something. See you guys on the grid.